When I was 8, I would spend my summer weekends at my grandmother's house. Grandma always made me feel welcome, and seeing her always made me feel warm and at peace. During the weekend stays, I would always stay in my own guest room that Grandma had set up just for me. A spacious but comfortable pink and white colored area filled with beautiful ballerina dancers on a wind-up music box and soft, fluffy teddies set up on the shelf built into the wall. My room there made me feel like I had a second home. The problem came from the sitting room. That was the place that felt cold, even on the hottest of summer days. I never expressed to Grandma how that room made me feel. I would just smile and do my best to let her know I was happy to be there with her. But if I ever had to sit in that room by myself, that's when the feeling of fight or flight would take the place of safety. The reason I would end up in such a state of unease was always the same: the clown doll on the shelf. The clown was a porcelain doll, much like the ballerinas in my bedroom, only he was much larger and would probably stand half my height if he was stood up. He was dressed in a fluffy white and silver scarf with a red and blue jester outfit. The ends of the sleeves had small bells that had a deep, overly strong jingle that sounded too loud for the size that they were. I had only heard them once, when Grandma first showed him to me, but the tone of the jingle never left my memory. His hat was pointed, and he had pieces of curly red locks showing through the sides of his hat and on his face. His face was painted all white like he had white face paint on, and his mouth and eyes were painted red and black, with a smile that stretched from cheek to cheek. He sat propped up on the small corner table with his head cocked to the side, as if he was tired of sitting up straight. I never wanted to admit that I felt so much fright upon just seeing it, but it always seemed to watch me, make me feel like if I got too close, it would jump right off the shelf and grab me. Most days were perfectly fine, and other than the cold feeling brought to that room by the presence of the doll, I could enjoy my vacationing days and just pretend that it wasn't there, that it wasn't watching and listening at all times. Before going to bed, though, when the house was silent, I would sit awake, waiting to hear the sound of the bells, imagining that they would jingle from him jumping off the shelf. I sat, alert, waiting for a moment that wouldn't occur, until my eyes were so heavy I'd fall asleep without knowing it. That was my routine. On the last night staying at Grandma's, my parents, uncle, aunts, and some cousins came. We had a cookout on the deck in the backyard. We played games, ate, and stayed up until we had to put on the porch lights. After my cousins left, I decided to go pack up my stuff while the adults continued with their gossip that bored me. With all the excitement of the family, I had forgotten about the threat coming from the sitting room. So with full confidence, I made my way through the house, figuring I'd pack my bags before having to hear the "we need to get ready to go" speech my mother always provided after talking for too long. After packing my bags up, I headed down the hall to set them in a pile by the front door, but halfway down the hall, I felt the cold down my back. Suddenly, the fight or flight feeling kicked in and I began to realize I was completely alone in the house with it. I stopped in my tracks, hard in my throat, and with only the light coming from the kitchen reminding me I wasn't drowning. I held my breath and listened to the silence. Suddenly, I heard it. The jingle. Light but distinct. The same sound I recall from the first time I heard it. I didn't want to let myself believe it, so I listened and focused as hard as I could. There it was again. My stomach dropped in that moment, like I was on the first drop on a roller coaster. My palms started to sweat and I could feel tears forming in my eyes. Suddenly, the light in the kitchen went brighter and my heart skipped a beat. I could hear the voices of my mom, dad, and grandma coming from the kitchen, and flight kicked in. I ran straight into my mom's arms, not wanting to look up, not wanting her to see my eyes, and the fear I still felt. They continued to talk and grabbed items to load into the car, not aware of the event I had just experienced. As my heartbeat started to get back to a steady rate, I wiped my eyes, trying to play it off like I was just scratching them. After I was able to dry the tears, I built up the courage enough to walk near the table corner, the one angle that allowed me to see into that room. On the shelf, the clown was sitting, but his body was shifted differently than the last time I saw him. Straighter, as if he was conveying a position, showing he was on his best behavior. I didn't buy it at all. That doll was not nice. It was not normal, and it had not been in that position. But we left that evening, and I kept the event to myself, trying to pretend what I heard was just my imagination. Later that year, we stopped by for the holidays, and the clown wasn't on his perch, and my heart dropped. Grandma caught me staring at the spot and began to explain to me that she had to get rid of the clown doll after it fell and broke. I never asked how it fell.